expecting, or will they expect for shooting down the Russian plane? Will it affect their relationship with Syria?
So what happened here basically is the following. There is, as Ellie said, there is some coordination between Israel and Russia on what's happening in Syria. What happened apparently is that the notice or the notification that Israel gives to Russia was too short. But on the other hand, Israel does not want to give a longer notice, because the longer the notice, the more likely it is for other sources to know about Israel's intervention. So Israel does not want to give like half an hour notice to Russia, because then everybody would know about it and it would defeat the purpose. And that's the dilemma. On the one hand, you do want to give a short notice, but for the Russians it's not good enough. And this is really what is being...
It was good enough for the past 3 years, which is quite solid.
But apparently in this case, it was a very short notice.
Was the overreaction on the Syrian side?
Yes, in that case, apparently it was too short a notice, and therefore the Russians could not get organized. And what the Russians are asking Israel is like, please give us notice more than 2 minutes or 3 minutes in advance. That's not good enough. But if, again, as I said, if it's half an hour or 15 minutes, then it would defeat the purpose.
Are you sure they said please?
Well, they said it in Russian, probably.
Well, Ali, let's talk about their relationship. Where does Israel and Russia stand now?
So it was a joke, but I think it definitely emphasizes the point. Please is not part of the terminology when we're talking about this kind of a relationship. There's really a solid interest of both sides to maintain this cooperation on the ground. It prevented a lot of unnecessary chaos that could have happened unless the sides would have cooperated so well so far. It is likely, as Dr. Navon said, that the Russians will come up with new criteria for what this ongoing communication actually means on the ground, whether it's a notice or further mechanisms of coordination. But from Israel's standpoint, the most important thing is to maintain its freedom of action when we're talking about Iranian or Hezbollah targets in Syria. This is, and I also want you to pay attention to the very mild rhetoric in the statements released by both Netanyahu's office here in Jerusalem and the Kremlin on what unfolded. Not harsh rhetoric, definitely not inflammatory, trying to diffuse the tension and keep on cooperating.
Emmanuel, I want to ask you about the significance of the location of where this went down. This happened in Latakia, which is nowhere near Israel's border with Syria. This is so far north. Is it unusual for Israeli jets to be flying that far?
It is not. As a matter of fact, what concerns Israel are the Iranian bases in Syria. So whether they're far or close to Israeli border, Israel does not want Iranian military installations to take root in Syria, and these are the main targets of the Israeli Air Force. Obviously, the closer they are to Israel's border, the more threatening they are. However, any significant Iranian presence in Syria is something that Israel opposes, and therefore, as far as Israel is concerned, they are legitimate targets. The Russians understand that. On that, there is complete understanding between Israel and the Russians. By the way, even Putin himself does not want a strong Iranian presence in Syria. He wants to control the country. He doesn't want the Iranians to control the country. So it's not that he's against Israel's intervention against the Iranians' presence in Syria. It's just that he does not want this to affect in any way the Russian forces, as it happened on Monday. So again, it's important to understand that Putin himself is not against Israel's action against the Iranians, because he doesn't want Syria to be controlled by Iran.
Well,